my relationship with everything changes greatly if that's what's required. And there's parts of me that really wish here that there was an option to study in a more in a way that would allow me to apply it to a parish, whereas I couldn't apply full monastic standards onto a parish. It's just unrealistic, and everyone knows that's unrealistic. That's not what a parish is. So I think it's good, but for someone who's already left a monastery, it can get difficult because, for me, I already know that I don't want to. If I wanted to live in a monastery, I would live there. So.
Владимирская семинария — это Александр Шумилов. Можно читать его, и тогда будет понятна собственная концепция Владимирской семинарии.
Yes. At the beginning, you mentioned that the priest whom you met in your first parish, he managed to explain you some nuances that are relevant for that converts face compared to, let's say, cradle Orthodox.
Sure.
So what are these nuances? And if there are any cradle Orthodox here, how do they compare with converts?
Well, it's interesting. Again, my understanding of that has changed too throughout the years. So originally, it depends on people that are always born Orthodox. You have those that it's very ingrained in them. They are very pious. And there are monks here that are, they might have fallen away at some point in their life, but when they came back, it was already, they had all the roots there. For a convert, those roots aren't there. So there is a lot of needing to, plant these new ways of thinking, new ways of being, and there's also ways of having to root up a lot of old ways that are just not good anymore. So I guess, for me especially, who I really felt like I converted from true paganism, there was, I relate to the fathers of the church who were formerly pagan, because when they speak against paganism, they understand it, and they can delve into the truth of the gospel in a way that, the way that wouldn't be understood by somebody else. And I'm gonna see if I can give you an example of a nuanced thing. He understood. He just understood that I came from a secular society. He's very much on the same realm of Father Seraphim Rose of Latina, who Father Seraphim Rose, being an American convert, could find this full joy in Russian Orthodoxy. That may be something that even a Russian Orthodox person couldn't really see because they're just so used to it. So there's a benefit to it in that sense, but there's also this level of having to sift through a lot of baggage that comes with living in a very secular way of thinking, in a secular world where...
What is it, like secular world thinking, secular society? Like you said, it's nearly like conversion from being secular to being Orthodox.
Yeah.
What is it?
What is that conversion?
What is it like to be secular, to have secular views? What is different about them?
What's different is the, I guess, the overall end goal. In secular society, it's just to attain things. It's just to have. It's just to... Freedom is almost in things we do rather than who we are. It's in Orthodoxy. It's a lot less about it's more about your spiritual state. So it wouldn't, how it changes. Here's an example. If I were to take a job in a purely secular way, I would look at it and say, how much money will I make? Okay, great. And can I physically do it? Sure. And I take no consideration, is this spiritually healthy? Is this something that will, damage me in any other way? And I might just do it for the money, and sure, I get a lot of money, and I've done this. I've had jobs where I've worked crazy and I made a lot of money, but I was absolutely spiritually void. And in the Orthodox setting, it's a little different. You're looking at it saying, okay, you kind of look at it through different lenses. Is it spiritually damaging at all? What can I do that will better, And when I'm working, I'm doing it for God. I'm doing it for Christ. And I'm not doing it for my own recognition. You know, that's the one thing at the monastery that was something that at first I thought was silly, but I adopted it completely. Whenever I would thank somebody, they would say, "Thank God." No, thank God. And I never understood it, but now that's what I respond when someone says thank you to me. I just say thank God, because it's not, I don't really feel like I deserve any credit for it. Especially, you know, I realize there's a lot of things outside of my realm of control, though I do fight with that sometimes, and I do still want to control things at times.
And Alina said that you had some struggles with, like you had to struggle with Russian mentality here in the seminary.
We have old Russian mentality here sometimes. We have a kind of a forgive me for saying this, it's like almost like emigre mentality is different than Russian mentality. Emigre mentality, well, because you're frozen in time.
Okay.
You're frozen in time in a sense. It's a little bit of a, whenever you leave a place and you go somewhere, that mentality is kind of frozen in time. So Jordanville in particular is very tied up with, tied especially to the early revolution. So there's this mentality of, we're heavily focused on Tsarist Russia and Imperial Russia, and for better, for worse, unfortunately, Imperial Russia does not exist. It's no longer a physical reality anywhere in this world. So there are times where there can be a distraction where we get so focused on what Imperial Russia, what we think Imperial Russia was, rather than focusing on what the gospel is, which the gospel is transcendent of time. It's beyond. It's uniting with Christ, and there's plenty of saints in Imperial Russia that will bring us to that conclusion. But sometimes I think we get caught up on, well, this is what they did in this monastery of this time. And it doesn't apply to our living times now.
Okay, so it's not really problems with Russians, but rather with that being conserved in those times.
And it's it's funny because the irony of it is I had chose to go to Russian-only churches for so long that it's not, I never had I was always more included in Russian churches than even in American ones. But
okay. A technical question. You mentioned that you've been trudnik in a monastery. Do you use this word? Like, in general, I've been to so many monasteries, and I've never, a very few times I really heard that people use the word trudnik for something. No, actually, maybe once only. Like, my impression so far was that there's no such a phenomena as trudnik in American monastery, because when I arrived to this monastery, no one really tells me, okay, go cut the grass or do something. While in Russia, it's very common.
It is. So, my old monastery absolutely was. It was very much a working monastery, and we were very much a working monastery, and all our visitors were working. And
really?
Everyone works.
Okay.
So.
Well, this is my 13th monastery. I never had to work. I always had to ask myself for work. So is this monastery like an exception, or?
No, well, I think it's actually.
I was visiting wrong monastery.
Well, I don't know. It's they're just a very much a working monastery. So even as women would work. There's a soap. We have one woman who works at the monastery who makes soap. So usually the females who visit work with her, work in the soap room. And or they clean the church. Like, there's a lot of women that come to clean. But it's the concept of working there, and there's there's plenty of men that have lived at the monastery that were not monks, who didn't want to be monks, who are trudniks. They live and work there, and that's it.
Okay. Did you visit any other monasteries in general, like just?
Only in Russia. But my Russian was very poor at the time, and I didn't really spend a lot of time in their liturgical life. I just kind of went to the monastery and walked around. And
what were your impressions?
I was amazed by how old the monastery was. That's what I was amazed that this was something that was so that's just so well established. And I don't know the living. I don't know the living, how it is in day-to-day life now. I know there's been a lot of resurgence in monasticism in Russia.